So welcome to Item Accelerator and yet another throbbing video on on processors and SAM and ITAM. And Kylie, this month, what are we getting excited about?
Inventory importation process.
Flags.
Yay!
Yay!
Fun with flags.
Yes. so this one.
Throbbing fun with flags.
Oh, this is. I can't wait to put this one on Facebook. I really can't. Yes, let's talk all things inventory importation then at that point.
So let's jump straight to our little workflow, because we've done something different with this one. They're square boxes.
Oh yeah, first time. So in the wonderful world of Aris, if you require a function step to show a manual activity, it's a rectangle with rounded corners. But if you're doing things whizzy and bangy around automation, then the corners are square. So yes.
Rory loves this stuff.
Oh, soak it up.
But I think what's really important is when we've written this process, we've made a massive assumption, which is not necessarily an accurate assumption, which is that this process is fully automated, because the reality is it generally isn't.
There's always those outliers, aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Non-network devices, etc. Yeah.
So let's just say it's an aspiration that this process be fully automated.
Yes.
We really need to be trying to get there. So we've got, this is a really parallel process to the entitlement importation, but in some ways it's quite different, because the data is technical data, and it's coming directly from how we're using technology, whereas the entitlement is all about what we've purchased, what we've owned, what contracts we've signed up for. So entitlement's quite wishy-washy, whereas the inventory should be a lot more concrete and definitive. Exactly. Yeah. Whether it is or not is another question. But both of them, both entitlement and inventory, go through roughly the same process, which is gathering the data, interpreting the data, applying the data, and then you compare entitlement with inventory to produce compliance, or to produce sort of optimization opportunity, to identify optimization opportunities, for instance. So this is why I see them as being quite parallel, because roughly you're applying the same high level operations to the two different types of data. But as always, the devil is in the detail. So we basically categorize our inventory data as three different types, don't we?
Yeah. So we've got data that comes from individual agents that might report to a SAM or an ITAM.
Or agentless. I mean.
Yes.
That come off the physical equipment or the virtual machines that you've got in your estate. So that's the scanned data.
Mm-hmm. And then there's data which might come from a portal that would report on consumption or usage.
Yeah, and this is also where you would introduce, for instance, your software as a service consumption. You know, what subscriptions have you got, and well, you get that off the portal as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you also might have an application where people are set up within the application, so you pull that data in, rather than, so it's almost about what users have been set up. Yeah,
well, it's that thing, isn't it? It's not a case anymore of one license equals one install anymore. You need to understand how the software is being consumed to actually come up with an accurate drive down on license consumption. Yeah. And then there is the third level metric data that we would look to capture as well. So we mentioned this fleetingly in a previous video. Length of runway, millions of oils a barrel produced in a day. Those sort of ethereal metrics that are often applied in a bespoke fashion by software vendors to maximise license revenue.
Align revenue to the value provided by the software, Rory.
And that too, yeah. So that needs capturing, and that needs to be systematic and wherever possible automated as well. You don't want people running around with clipboards to gather that kind of information. Yeah. At that point then, and this is where architecture plays a role as well in the structure of this report, because we've got everything boxed off, and we've got things like SAM Suite, we've got supporting data systems. You're going to need connectors to make the value and the automation really pay off there. because you are dealing with volumes of data. You really don't want to be running around with emails and spreadsheets trying to move one to the other.
And this is also where where we were saying when we were discussing the data validation process, if you focus on the issue with the underlying process and you sort that out, then the data then the data issues that you've identified will resolve themselves. And this is particularly the case for inventory and importation. So if you identify that the agent is missing from 100 machines because, I don't know, a build was created and 100 machines were built, you need to remediate the fact that the 100 machines are missing the agent. But more importantly, almost, is making sure that you do a new build that includes the agent. And once you've done that, then basically the problem's going to remediate itself.
Yeah, you
change
the build routine. 100
machines, but what's 100 machines in the scheme of things? Your data just needs to be good enough.
Yeah.
So think when you're making sure this process works, it's all about the process, because the data issues that are generated when this goes wrong will remediate themselves quite quickly.
Yeah, they have the potential to. One gotcha that caught me out when I was consulting in the Middle East were the networks chaps, the gurus.
Right.
They made changes to the networks without telling the SAM team, and all of a sudden it created a blind spot.
Yep.
So the agents that were reporting, I think it was Oracle at the time, couldn't get past whatever sort of network deviation had been made. So all of a sudden it was, the devices are fine, they're just not reporting in 30, 60, 90 days. So they're the kind of checks and activities that you need to go through to make sure that you're reporting on a daily or a weekly basis.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then your system will pull in all this data and normalise it. And if it's a SAM suite, it'll be normalising it so that it's licensable, so that you can compare it against licensing data, the entitlement data. So again, this is where the SAM suite really plays to its strengths, because that normalisation and then the application of licensing knowledge will largely be automated, saving an awful lot of time. Yeah,
try doing it in a spreadsheet and see how you go.
So where does this process lead out to?
Lead out to, again, well, it's going to be software asset data verification, orphan data, or you want to make sure that it's fit for purpose once it's in the SAM suite, and that it is the relationships between it and the other entities in the SAM suite or item suite are in place.
Yeah, and he's forgetting the two most important ones, of course, which are license compliance.
If you want to go there.
Pool. Yeah,
if you want to go there.
Yeah. Well, this is true, because actually, as we move away from a perpetual licensing model to subscription models, it becomes more and more about optimization.
Well, and fundamentally too, another point to it is, of course, that you want to import inventory data on a daily basis because it gives you the freshest view of the IT estate. You're not necessarily wanting to run a compliance report every day.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah. So anything else around the inventory importation process?
No, just stay vigilant, I think.
Yeah.
That's it. Just, again, change the enemy. Just keep an eye out for what's going on in the wider business. There could be mergers and acquisitions. There could be new elements taking place. Divestitures as well. All of that kind of good stuff. So you could expect parts of the IT estate to drop off from your SAM or ITAM suite view. So, yeah.
Great. So, I think that's it, really.
I think it is. All right.
See you next month.
Take care.